Good morning, pilots. Today's briefing will cover electronic warfare and Star Wars Squadrons. Electronic warfare is best conducted by support craft using a combination of targeting beacons and radar jammers. They can either be equipped together or separately. The targeting beacons are especially useful for disabling enemy countermeasures and allowing you to land an ion shot with the ion missile. The radar jammers are also effective for scrambling the enemy radar, however, have to be used very carefully, as the radar jammers cause the enemy to automatically target the support craft, because they no longer have other targets to engage. The targeting beacon's maximum range is 1250 meters, has a cooldown of 30 seconds, has a maximum number of targets of 4 enemies, duration of 20 seconds, and an incoming damage multiplier of 130%. Again, these targeting beacons are especially useful for that damage multiplier, the fact that you have unlimited ammunition with them, and that marked targets cannot use countermeasures. This is good for knocking out enemy bombers. Hitting them with a targeting beacon and following up with an ion missile ensures a disabled target. The radar jammer, also known as the Squadron mask, hides all allies from enemy radar. It has a 750 meter range, which means any allies within 750 meters will be hidden from radar for 10 seconds. This is useful again because of its unlimited ammunition, and the fact that in a fight you can spam both the radar jammer and the targeting beacons to cripple the enemy's targeting computers and to hide your allies from the enemy. This is especially useful in the opening moments of a battle, where both teams are engaging head-on. You can surprise the enemy team by using the jammer to hide your teammates. The trade-off is once you use this jammer, it will only hide your 4 teammates, causing the enemy to target your support craft. Once you use this jammer, you need to fly defensively in order to survive and rely on your teammates. Both the radar jammer and the squadron, the targeting beacons, use the pips on the left to tell you how many enemies and how many friendlies your beacon or squadron mask will affect. On the left image of the reticle of the U-wing, the 4 diamonds tell me that there are 4 enemies within range of my targeting beacons. When I fire that targeting beacon, a blue projectile will be emitted from the U-wing. That projectile will need to hit those enemies in order for them to be marked. If that projectile is stopped by an object, it will not mark the enemies. The squadron mask masks all friendlies within a 750 meter range, regardless of cover that's between you and your friendly. The right pips to the side of my reticle there, the round ones, tell me that there are 2 friendlies within range of my 750 meter radius, and by using the jammer, 2 friendlies will be masked. Please pay attention in the following video, as it is using the build detailed there on the right side of the screen. Right now you can see that there is 1 enemy within range of my targeting beacon. There are now 2 enemies. Now there are none.
Marking targets for you, Vanguard.
Here there is 1 target within range of my jammer.
Empire's locking onto me.
Typically it's best to hold your jammer or your targeting beacon until there are multiple friendlies or enemies within effect range. You can tell which friendlies have been jammed from the enemy radar, because they will have a small eye icon next to their target. Enemies, you can tell when they've been masked or when they've been targeted, because they will emit a red reticle around the fighter, which it should be emitting now on the TIE fighter. And you can also see it on the status indicator at the bottom of the screen. There will be a small red box underneath the hull of the enemy fighter. The enemy is now targeted. Friendlies are now jammed. Remember, when you're taking fire, you do immediately re-engage the target that is shooting you. Do not remain target fixated, or you will die. 3 friendlies are now protected.
Enemy starfighter on your tail.
Re-engaging another target that just shot me. Four friendlies are now jammed. 2 enemies have been targeted by beacons.
Jamming the enemy radar.
This concludes my briefing on electronic warfare and Star Wars Squadrons. At this time, are there any questions?
When you're in the head of a dogfight, how are you supposed to remember to use both your countermeasures and your target lock?
So in the middle of a dogfight, your targeting beacon and your radar jammer will have the indicator there in the center of your screen so that you can quickly identify how many enemies or how many friendlies your effect will be targeting. So in a dogfight, you don't necessarily need to track at all times where everyone is. You simply need to press the button when there's 3 to 4 green pips on each side.
I noticed you were taking a lot of fire inside of that. Would it be better to me to stay on my engine power or shield power?
So shield power does not regenerate when you're under fire. When you're taking fire, it is best to redirect your shields to the direction you're taking fire, if you need to. If you don't, and you can simply escape and get behind cover, keep your power to engines to evade. Once you're out of combat for a good second or two, then you can put power to shields and regenerate your hit points. Otherwise, it is best to continue evading and flying defensively. Use as much cover as possible, so that way you don't get caught out in the open by an enemy interceptor, or worse, a bomber.
Do these powers work on enemy support craft? And if they're using jammers or countermeasures, how will they interact?
So if you're using a jammer, or if you're using electronic countermeasures, your countermeasures will affect the enemy support craft. Their countermeasures will also affect you. Whenever you use a radar jammer, however, your craft is not jammed. The enemy team will only be able to target you if you use the radar jammer to mask your 4 teammates, because only your support craft will then be available to see.
So this means that the enemy support craft wouldn't be able to use their targeting sensors on anyone else but you.
The enemy support craft can use their countermeasures in the same manner as you. They can use their targeting beacons and their jammer. If you were to use your jammer on your team, the enemy should not be able to use their targeting beacons on your team, because your team will be jammed for the duration of that 10 seconds. That still needs to be tested. Be very careful with that. I have not personally gone and tested to see if the enemy can use a targeting beacon while your team is jammed. If there are no further questions, this concludes my briefing. Good hunting, pilots.